Hey there guys, I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be talking about Nuremberg. So this was a movie that I was very interested in seeing, knowing that this was a movie based around the setup of the Nuremberg trials. And I thought it would be interesting to see how this movie would turn out. I mean, this movie doesn't actually come out yet in the UK. It was early screenings were available for people who are Odeon members with my Odeon membership. So I kind of wanted to take the plunge to watch this movie to see for myself how good it was. And it's definitely worth the watch, that's for sure. And there's quite a lot of positive things I could say about Nuremberg. So getting into this movie, Nuremberg is based on the book The Nazi and the Psychiatrist. And the movie is centered around a psychiatrist, Douglas Kelly, who is essentially he works for the U.S. Army, and he serves as a prison guard psychiatrist to essentially be there to talk to the prominent Nazi figures who are basically put on trial for their war crimes. And one of the people that he comes up to is a very prominent Nazi person called Hermann Göring. And Hermann Göring is played by Russell Crowe, and I think he does a very good job portraying Hermann Göring. Now, I think Russell Crowe's general acting when he speaks in English, because the interesting thing what he does is that he uses German language as well as English. I think his English language is kind of essentially Russell Crowe being Russell Crowe from a lot of movies I've seen, like Kraven the Hunter, The Pope's Exorcist, etc. I've seen quite a lot of that in recent days. And also, when he speaks in German, you do kind of feel like he kind of portrays the character more authentically. And I think it was actually interesting to see that the change of dynamic between the different languages he was using, between English and German. But also Rami Malek does very well too. He plays as the psychiatrist, Douglas Kelly, and his role is essentially trying to determine all the prison guards are fit to stand trial. You know, using medical interventions and everything like that to essentially come to those sort of conclusions, really. And really throughout his time, he speaks to a lot of these inmates who work for the Nazi Party, and they kind of portray a very manipulative character to try and hide the atrocities that they did, to kind of sort of brainwash them essentially. And obviously when a lot of the political leaders set up the Nuremberg courtroom at Nuremberg to have these trials to be set out, well, essentially a lot of the world leaders really try and put the prominent Nazi people up for trial for conspiracy for war crimes and also, murder of millions of people. They essentially try and find the truth of really what happened. And really the whole tone of the movie changes pretty well, and changes a lot. So, and I think it does show a lot of emotion, and a lot of the images, especially that they use in this film, they do really depict really sort of sensitive themes, like suicide, and also just showing amples of dead bodies that a lot of these concentration camps have. And a lot of those themes are portrayed in it's very self-aware that it's portrayed in a way that it kind of has a lot of shock to it. The movie does build a lot of tension, and you do see that with this movie. At the beginning, you kind of see a little bit of most of the dynamics between Douglas Kelly and Hermann Göring, essentially trying to sort of determine his medical condition and his state to stand trial. And sometimes Douglas Kelly also meets Hermann Göring's wife and daughter as well, and kind of sends messages to them just to kind of get some communication with him. And it kind of builds the emotions of that he has family as well. But realistically, when you look at Hermann Göring, he is a very flawed character with that has committed atrocities to a lot of people in Germany, Jewish Germans essentially. And that is you get like that sort of dynamic as well that goes on. And really like the build up to it when it reaches the Nuremberg trials does show it's essentially a lot of the truth. And what you notice with this movie is not also just showing the imageries of a lot of dead bodies and also the truth, but also there's also themes of suicide as well. And a lot of those themes are used a lot because of the fact that essentially they want to a lot of the Nazi prominent leaders commit suicide to hide the truth, and some of them do that. And you actually do notice that with Hermann Goring. I'm kind of spoiling it, but the story is already known, and it's a true story. But when the courtroom does his proceedings and does his verdict on what would happen to the Nazi prominent leaders, including Hermann Goring, they're all sentenced to death by hanging. But Hermann Goring actually kills himself with cyanide pill, and it's essentially there like that he kind of does that to escape justice and the truth for the atrocities he's committed. Now, I would state, if you are very emotional when it comes to movies, I feel like this movie will invoke a lot of emotions, especially like the true evils of the Nazi party. And I think for some people, they might find it too sensitive for them to watch, which I probably would understand, but I feel for a lot of people who like history and kind of like drama films, I genuinely believe that this is one of the standout movies I have seen this year. Like, I haven't really seen like so much that really kind of invokes a lot of that emotion and the true evil around these people. And certainly like Russell Crowe's character of Hermann Goring does a very good job, portraying that. I think his performance really stood out a lot, but also Rami Malek as well. I think his character was really good, trying to play like a very intelligent doctor of a psychiatrist, and essentially he kind of gets alluded to the fact that thinking that these Nazi prominent leaders are good people, which he kind of had the intentions to believe, but realistically they're not. And it shows their manipulative character as well with these people. Lots of praises I could really say about Nuremberg. The pacing and structure was also very good as well, the way it builds up. I have no complaints with that as well. Now, being a war movie, obviously there's no... This is set after World War II. There's no like real violence or anything like that in this movie. It is really a drama film. And I think if you're expecting that in this sort of movie, you're not going to get it in this one. There's no like sort of over-the-top violence, gunshots and stuff like that you would see in this movie. In fact, I couldn't recognize a gunshot ever being used in this film. So don't expect any action of any kind. But yeah, a drama movie done perfectly well, if you ask me. So yeah. I know this movie's not out yet in the UK, but I think in other territories it might be out. But if you have watched Nuremberg, it'll be interesting to know what your thoughts are with this movie. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe, dislike if you want to dislike. Thank you for watching. And yeah, that's about it. See you later.